تعرفي ماما؟ عم فكر بشي هديك المرة. أنا بعمري ما شفتك عم تبكي.
Hold on. You gave her wings?
And blasters.
So I take it you didn't have that tech available for me?
No, I did.
Hello, and thanks for joining us for our weekly film show. For the first time ever, a female superhero is appearing in the title of a Marvel Studios movie. Evangeline Lilly's The Wasp gets an equal billing with Paul Rudd's Ant-Man in their latest film. I was at the premiere of the new Marvel film, Ant-Man and the Wasp, at Disneyland Paris this weekend.
It's not lost on me that this is not just a cinematic moment, but a cultural moment. That the Time's Up movement has been calling for equality, and we now see equal billing on a Marvel film. And Marvel has had quite a year, and a lot of people are paying attention to them. There's a lot of eyes on our world and our universe, and so I'm so honored to carry this mantle.
And you can watch my report with the rest of the stars, including Paul Rudd and Michael Douglas, later in the week. Well, I'm a big fan of this movie, Lisa. What did you think of it?
Well, there's a character called Ant-Man who's a man who wears a red outfit and sometimes shrinks to the size of an ant. And then there's another character called the Wasp. You think I didn't actually see the movie, right? You think I'm as prepared as Donald Trump meeting Kim Jong-un or Vladimir Putin. Well, not only did I see the movie from the first frame until the second cookie after the credits and enjoy it quite a bit, but I saw it in the very first cinema, not only in France, but in all of Europe, to offer a viewing experience called Screen X.
So what is Screen X?
Well, for one thing, it's a potentially problematic name for a movie-going innovation, because when I hear X, I think porn movies or a former romantic partner X. But it's a specially built theater that shows the movie on a regular-looking screen straight ahead, but also at choice intervals expands the action out to the sides for a total of 270 degrees, and you're in the middle. Now, we spare no expense here at France 24, so it's kind of like this. This is the movie theater, the regular one. You're sitting over here, and these are the two flaps that the movie kind of expands out to sometimes.
It
is kind of like
with
that.
These two sides.
So Ant-Man and the Wasp lasts just under 2 hours, and 22 minutes of that time extends out into those flaps. This technology comes from South Korea, and apparently it costs about $1 million per flap to have those extra images snake along the walls. It's kind of nifty, and I recommend that you give it a spin if you want to see the movie anyway, but it's not going to make a so-so movie extraordinary.
Well, the Ant-Man and the Wasp has some really hilarious moments. What do you think about a fanciful and fun superhero movie?
Oh, I'm all for it. You know, we don't really stop to think about it, but hardly anybody likes real bats, but most of us like Batman. Most of us don't like real ants, and I've never met anyone who goes out of their way to cavort with wasps, and yet Ant-Man and the Wasp are pure fun. Ant-Man's suit malfunctions here, which means he's just as likely to shrink down like this or to blossom up to 80 feet high. When he shrinks down, a tiny toy car makes a perfect ride, and where they get working transmissions that can cope with the hills of San Francisco, they don't really go into. Scott, played with a very nice level of mischief by Paul Rudd, is under house arrest with an ankle bracelet because of something he did in Germany that close students of Marvel Comics and their cinematic offshoots probably know about. Comics artist Stan Lee, who is still with us at age 95, has a fun cameo, by the way. Sometimes if I run into particularly vocal anti-Semites, I'll say, so I guess you don't like Superman, the Hulk, the X-Men, Iron Man, or Thor, huh? Because in addition to those iconic characters, Lee is one of the white Jewish guys who created the comic behind recent movie sensation Black Panther. Here's a look at Ant-Man and the Wasp's quantum antics.
Ant-Man and the Wasp teaming up.
Follow my lead.
She seems more intense.
You go low, I'll go high.
I have wings. Why would I go low?
We're gonna die. I don't want to die. We didn't die.
Well, there's a lot of chat about quantum things in the film. Maybe it's time we talk about the plot.
Okay, Michael Douglas plays a scientist who used to wear the Ant-Man suit and whose daughter, now the Wasp, wants to find a way into the quantum void to see if her mother, played by Michelle Pfeiffer, is still trapped there decades after she sacrificed her regular life to defuse a nuclear missile. Scott, in a gathering of serious scientific types, asks, do you guys just put the word quantum in front of everything? And yeah, they pretty much do.
Okay, well, there's a great deal of discussion about the need for more female directors at the moment. There we saw a female superhero. There's also a female baddie. And my favourite fabric was made by the Syrian writer-director Gaye Gigi. It premiered at Cannes, where there was a protest on the red carpet calling for more equality between the sexes when it comes to cinema. This film is out in France this week. What did you think?
Well, this is a first film, and I will definitely go see the next movie this director makes. This is a portrait of a defiant young woman in Damascus, starting in March of 2011, when it seems increasingly clear that Syria is tottering on the brink of civil war. It's a France, Germany, Turkey co-production starring riveting Franco-Lebanese actress Manal Issa, who was also outstanding in another recent film written and directed by a woman, Danielle Arbid's Parisien. So here Issa plays Nala, who is in search of freedom in an oppressive society, where some may see hints of a 21st century Belle de Jour or perhaps traces of the 1001 Nights. Gigi takes a frank approach to exploring Middle Eastern notions of femininity and virility leavened by fantasy. Good combination. So Nala works as a salesgirl in a small clothing shop and is more or less permanently disgruntled, and we can't really blame her. It doesn't help that at age 25 she lives in a small, cramped apartment with her mom and her two sisters, one a bit of an airhead, the other one a smart tomboy. Nala knows a lot about fabrics and fashion and also excels at showing contempt for prospective customers. She's intent on exploring the sensual side of life, preferably with a partner who respects her. That may or may not be feasible. Let's take a look.
قال لسمير تلفنه رح يجوا الأحد. عن جد؟ وأخيراً رح يجي الرجل المنتظر. ليش ما بيشوف واحدة من أمريكا محل معايش؟ لأنه بده ياخد واحدة من البلد. خليني نتجوز تحت القصف لكان.
بعدين نروح كلنا على أمريكا.
أعطيني خبز.
لا تقبلي نحن الأولاد تشوفيه.
لساتني ما شفته. بجوز ما يعجبني.
Now, when an intriguing middle-aged woman moves in 2 flights up, Nala introduces herself to this mysterious new neighbor and tries to figure out what's actually going on in her apartment. Meanwhile, as we saw in that clip, it's been arranged for her to meet a fellow from North America who was born in Syria but has come back looking for an authentic Syrian bride. The assumption is that Syrian women are submissive and virginal, unlike Americans and Canadians. This film was shot exactly a year ago with Istanbul filling in for Damascus. The script was nurtured by, and the eventual production received a lot of support from French sources. France has more working female film directors than anywhere else on earth at the moment, and with writing labs and production workshops, those numbers are just going to keep rising.
Excellent news. That's my favourite fabric, and it's out in France this week. Next, it seems risky to call any film you direct the last movie, but it's exactly what Dennis Hopper did in 1971. It's been remastered and is being re-released in cinemas in France.
Oh, you mean because calling your movie the last movie gives snarky headline writers a chance to say the last movie, ... Hopper is ever likely to direct. He didn't direct another film until 1980 because this one was considered such a disjointed mess. But that doesn't mean it's not a fascinating artifact. This was the movie Hopper wanted to make first, but it ended up being a follow-up to Easy Rider, which revolutionized the American film industry. Easy Rider cost very little to produce and made a mint. So eager for another hit that would attract young people to the movies, the studio gave Hopper carte blanche. Cue smacking of foreheads, delays, massive intake of illegal substances, etc. Here Hopper plays a stunt coordinator named Kansas, working on a film in Peru where the director is played played by the inimitable American director Sam Fuller. There's a fatal accident on the movie set depicted in the film, and the story is vaguely what happens after the film crew leaves. Kansas decides to stay on location, but he's thrown for a loop when the locals take over and start making their own virtual movie without any actual equipment or understanding of how movies imitate reality. Stunts in Ant-Man and the Wasp. They were not actually getting crushed. Hopper was accused of terminal pretentiousness, and when you look at an artistic endeavor from 1971, it's sometimes hard to determine whether it's groundbreaking or mediocre, pretentious or ahead of its time.
He led a pretty interesting life, didn't he, Dennis
That
Hopper?
he did. 8 years after this, he could be seen in Apocalypse Now, seemingly being paid by the number of times he said, man, man. Hopper started out as a teen movie actor, appearing with James Dean in the classics Rebel Without a Cause and Giant. He was one of those American characters who, say like Keith Richards in England, should have died several times over, but he didn't, and he just got more and more interesting. He made his mark as an actor, a filmmaker, a photographer, and although I never met the man, he was indirectly responsible for me being quoted in Vanity Fair. He directed a film called The Hot Spot, which I reviewed, and they quoted it in Vanity Fair. As a writer for Paris Passion put it, this is another recent film in which unrequested fellatio takes the place of polite conversation. I'm proud of that line. Hopper was proud of the movie and paid no attention to the fact that it is in a book called The 50 Worst Films of All Time.
Okay, I have more questions, but we're out of time, so I have to talk when the credits roll. We're going to leave you with Dennis Hopper's The Last Movie. Remember our website, we're also on Twitter, Instagram and Facebook. There's more news coming up on France 24 after this.
Man, what's going on down there? Hell. The movies have to bring here violence, and I don't like it.
Ahora quiero presentarles, he elegido a la parte de la última película, El Muerto.
This is the life.